With so many brands doing an off-road version of their SUVs, it would seem natural that Volkswagen went on join in on that trend. I'm at the 2023 New York International Auto Show, and this right here is the all-new 2024 Volkswagen Atlas Peak Edition. Let's take a first look. Now with the Peak Edition, this is supposed to be an off-road oriented trim, but before we start talking about the changes that Volkswagen made, I want to remind you guys what's underneath the hood. Now the company says they made no changes to the powertrain, except for the fact that they made their 4Motion all-wheel drive as standard. So what you're going to get is a new powertrain. This is an updated 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. This is replacing the old 2-liter turbo and the VR6, making 269 horsepower, paired up with an 8-speed automatic transmission. I don't have final fuel economy figures or performance figures just yet, but we should be driving this vehicle sometime in July, so stay tuned for our full review on that car whenever we actually go out and drive this vehicle in the real world. But let's go ahead and talk about the styling, because as you guys know, the Atlas got a pretty big refresh for 2024. We've seen this car out in public since 2018, and while I was expecting this to be a full redesign, you can see Volkswagen changed a lot here. For the Peak Edition, they wanted to give it a more rugged front fascia. First of all, we have the grille from the Atlas Cross Sport, so it's a slightly different front end. You can see it has the signature IQ light with the light bar that kind of extends. It connects the two headlights together. You have LED low and high beams as standard, and you also have their illuminated Volkswagen logo. So this is the new Volkswagen logo here that definitely gives it an upscale, more premium vibe. You can see the Peak Edition also has a unique front fascia where you have this kind of silver painted front end that kind of makes it look like a grill guard or a brush guard, or like maybe there's a skid plate underneath here. I don't think this vehicle has any of that. It is more of an appearance package, but let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the design. I actually really like the way the Atlas looks along with the Cross Sport. I've always loved that boxier look to it. It gives this vehicle a really nice design to it. Now looking at the rest of the profile, you can see Volkswagen will offer this color in either avocado green or this gray exterior color, although from the light, I think it actually might be the green color. You can see from the side profile, there are a couple of changes. The quickest thing you're gonna notice are the wheels. This is gonna be inspired by the Atlas Base Camp that we saw as a concept vehicle back in 2019. You can see this is an 18-inch black finished wheel on a Continental all-terrain tire. This actually looks almost like the same wheel and tire setup that you find on the Pilot Trail Sport, so that would be a direct competitor. Volkswagen says they didn't increase the ground clearance of this vehicle, but you can see with these all-terrain tires, it's gonna allow you to take this vehicle a little bit further off the beaten path. You can see there's some Peak Edition badging over here. You have black side mirrors, all the window trims, and the roof rails have been blacked out, which again gives it a nicer, more rugged appearance to it. And the Atlas has always been one of the bigger vehicles in the segment. It stretches in at just under 200 inches long, along with that kind of square shape. This is their 3-row crossover SUV, so it's nice that Volkswagen is kind of applying that to this vehicle. Now looking at the rear, you can see the design is basically the same as the refreshed Atlas that we showed you guys in Chicago. You can see the illuminated Volkswagen logo here kind of mimics the illuminated logo at the front. You have the same LED light bar that connects the two taillight modules together, and like I said earlier, the all-wheel drive system is going to be standard on this trim. The rear also gets a unique bumper. This vehicle will tow a maximum, I believe, of 5,000 pounds, and you can see it actually has these dual integrated exhaust tips with more of that almost like skid plate-like silver finish in the lower front skirt or the lower rear bumper, which I think looks really good. This is, to me, still one of the more handsome vehicles in the segment, and Volkswagen essentially just made it look even better. Now looking at the cargo area, you can see 3 rows of seating is going to be standard. You can get up to 7 seats in this vehicle because the third row only seats 2 across. But in terms of cargo space, this is going to be the same as the regular Atlas. You have just under 20 cubic feet of space, which should expand it out to a little over 80 cubic feet when all the seats are folded down. Underneath here, you can see there is a pretty generous storage area, although I'm surprised. It looks like this car has a spare tire, but I don't believe it's going to be a full-size spare. It's just going to be a temporary spare, which is interesting because most vehicles in the more off-road segment tend to have a full-size spare. Now moving to the interior of the 2024 Atlas Peak Edition, you can see the inside is pretty similar to the refreshed Atlas that we showed you guys in Chicago a couple months ago. This trim, Volkswagen says, is based off the SEL trim. So this is going to be more along the routes of a higher trim, which means you're going to have these upgraded seats. You can see this is their leatherette seats with a unique color to them. So you have kind of like a black, a gray, this orange contrasting stitching, which I think actually looks really good. The seats also feel pretty comfortable and supportive. The other thing that Volkswagen added is the Peak Edition badging here in the dashboard, where you can see it's actually illuminated in that orange color. There's also more of that orange illumination. In the regular Atlas, you can actually change the color of the ambient lighting. So I'm not entirely sure you can do the same in this vehicle, but you can see it's got the latest infotainment system here, where we have that 12-inch Discover Pro Media audio interface, which is pretty similar to the the one that we see in the Volkswagen ID4, which means you have the slider controls, touch-sensitive controls for the climate and whatnot. You have an all-digital display over here, and the steering wheel you can see has manual tilt and telescoping adjustments, and then there's Peak Edition badging over here, which again, it's all very subtle changes, but overall the cabin has a nice high quality feel with soft touch injection molded plastic, this carbon fiber look trim, which I believe is a fake trim, and you also have, it looks like a heads-up display on this model here, and then the seats, like I said earlier, they feel comfortable and supportive, but this car just kind of feels big. It feels like I'm driving almost like an American vehicle, but again, we'll be driving this vehicle in the next few months. But let's go ahead and hop into the second row of this vehicle, because I want to show you guys what the space is like. This is a family vehicle, as you guys know, and as you can see, this model here has a second row bench seat. This allows for seating for up to 7 people. You can see it has the ability to slide the seat forward and back, so there's a lever here which allows you to kind of change how much space you want to have in the third row. But getting back here, you can see the legroom is definitely nice. I don't remember the figures off the top of my head, but you can see for somebody 5'7", I have tons of headroom space, tons of legroom space. I believe it was like 39 inches of legroom. You also have nice features back here like rear seat vents. You have your own set of climate control functions. You have USB-C charging ports, and you also have an actual household power outlet back here. Although I'm surprised VW doesn't offer their captain's chairs. That's a feature that people tend to like in this segment. You can see there's also manual rear seat sunshades. You have soft touch materials back here along with the ambient lighting, which definitely looks nice. You have an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders over here. And then when you want to get into the third row, let me show you guys getting back into the third row space. You can see Rob already slid that forward. It does the same thing on the driver's side over here. And once you get back here, you can see the Atlas's third row, I would say, is probably average for this segment. Now, this is not with the seat all the way back. So this is with it slightly slid forward, but getting back here, you can see the headrest, you gotta push that up. But once you're back here, if you can ask the second row passenger to move that seat up, there's actually a pretty good amount of space for somebody my height. You can see legroom space is good. The seat is not high enough for, you know, long distance comfort, but I could get back here and sit back here for at least like an hour or two. You can see headroom space is fine. You have rear seat air vents. You have 2 USB charging ports. Not on that side though, only on this side. There's some cup holders and whatnot, but you can see the body of the Atlas is almost wide enough to accommodate 3 across. So I'm surprised VW doesn't offer that, but overall, the third row space is certainly usable for average size adults. So it's pretty clear after seeing the all-new 2024 Atlas Peak Edition, this is more of an appearance package, so it's not going to give you the necessary off-road chops like skid plates or increased ground clearance to let you go even further off that trail. But you can see the styling changes that Volkswagen has made has certainly improved the look of the Atlas. This is already one of my favorite designed SUVs because of its boxy appearance. I like the styling changes on the outside. The interior also has some nice upgrades, and VW again says this is based off of the SEL trim by the badge back here, which means it should be priced higher in the lineup. Now, Volkswagen hasn't announced actual pricing of this vehicle yet, but because it's based on an SEL, I'm going to say this car should start in the low $50,000 range, maybe even the high $40,000 range. We don't have final pricing just yet of the refreshed Atlas, but again, Volkswagen says this model should be going on sale sometime later this summer, and they also hinted at the possibility of doing a lower trim level based off of an SE. So again, if you guys want the look, Volkswagen may offer a lower price model depending on the dealer demand. For Redline Reviews here at the 2023 New York International Auto Show, I'm Sofyan Bey.